so World Wildlife Day is celebrated annually on the 3rd of March in support of animals and plants across the world. Joining us on the show is the Director General, Nigerian Conservation Foundation, Dr. Joseph Onoja. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yes, so World Wildlife Day. Why was there a need to have a World Wildlife Day? And what does it do?
All right, so the World Wildlife Day, I think they've been celebrating for the past 10 years now.
Right.
And it's set aside so that the awareness can be created on the importance of wildlife. And what I mean wildlife is wild plants and animals, and the important roles they play for our livelihood eventually, because these form part of the life support system of the human race. So sometimes as humans, we want to think that we are the only ones living here on earth. So it's important to continue to remind us that we are not just the only ones living here on earth, but we are the most vulnerable. Because nature has put all of these things in place to support us. And without these things, we would completely be annihilated.
Yeah.
And that is why it's important for us to observe days like these so that will bring awareness on the importance that wildlife play in our lives.
So how, okay, let me say, what sort of support would you want to see Nigerians give? We're just becoming mostly aware of the fact that we need to preserve our wildlife. And we have some specific areas, maybe like the Lekki Conservation. If you go to different states, you have one conservation or the other. But we still don't hear a lot of people push this. So what sort of support do you think Nigerians will begin to give to support wildlife?
Yeah, so that's one of the things. That's why a day like this is important. And apart from this day, we continue to also preach the message on the importance of these, and then everybody will play their role in supporting wildlife. Let me give you an instance, which I love giving, and that is the vultures. Certainly, that will definitely come to my conversation, and especially the important roles that they play. Their population are not just declining for declining sake. Their populations are being driven by humans. And that is why we continue to create awareness so that people will know their importance. Because if there are no vultures, then our healthcare costs will increase, both as personally and for the government. Because some diseases like botulism, tuberculosis, cholera, that vultures should have dealt with, and then stopping this disease from entering human population are not being stopped because there are no more vultures to take care of the carcasses around. Because what happens, the process of decay usually introduces the bacterium spores that normally, when it comes into the human population, has all of these tendencies to create these diseases. But vultures come in and clean it up before it gets to the human population. But if you take vultures out of the system, then you introduce other opportunistic scavengers like rats and dogs. And these have very close contact with the human population.
Then
they spread it around. And then we start dying, or we start paying huge amounts of money to be able to take care of our costs. So, and that is why it's important, the role that we play as individuals and as a government, so that we'll continue to see that our wildlife continue to be. And that's why a day like this is very important. And that is the role that we must play. And then we'll continue to create that awareness to everybody to be aware of their single role. Because sometimes we think that, oh, I don't have any role to play. But we do have a role to play. Because if you are not an active killer, if I put it that way, of wildlife, you are a passive killer of wildlife. Because if you don't spread the message, then people will not be aware. The active ones will not be aware. So we are all involved in it.
This is my approach to preserving wildlife. I believe that we are not kind as humans. We are not kind to animals generally. So we grew up, and it's normal for kids to stone a chicken. And their mother will say they're just playing. And that lack of kindness, they grew up with it. And so everything that is not human, some people say, now I know keep person. As long as you know keep person, you can kill anything anyhow. So you can actually put a dog in a bag and have fun, or you buy a salaram, and it's fun to have them heading each other till they get brain damaged. And my religion is against that form of treatment of animal in any way. And any animal that is seen to die as a result of such pain is not consumable. But people don't understand that's the rationale on why we slaughter and how we must consume. I think that in trying to do that with my kids and my neighbors' kids now, I see the difference. The lesson is tougher because it's normal play for them. I had to beat my son for doing that to a rabbit.
This
If we
boyfriend,
can
it's-
start from there,
Yeah.
it will generally be kinder to other animals before we even know the benefits. Can we even just be kind
Yeah, exactly.
to them?
I agree with you totally because that's why I said that sometimes we humans, we feel that we are a higher being. Yes, God has given us that responsibility to take care of them. And with that responsibility comes the fact that we need to be kind to them.
Right.
Because, as you said, in the garden, when God said, take care of, tend the garden. Tend the garden means you won't be cruel to something that you're supposed to take care of. So from that perspective, we need to look at it as well. Even apart from the benefits they have to us, we have to look at them with that kindness, that human
have
kindness.
life.
They have life.
They have
Yeah.
life, exactly.
Yeah.
These are, even sometimes there's some plants that you think that they don't have life. They do, they have life. And we need to recognize it, no matter how small it is. Then the other side of it is that someone will start asking me, mosquitoes, what do they do?
Flies.
The flies,
Wall
what
geckos.
do they do? Wall geckos, exactly, snakes, and so on. But they
If you
all
see what wall
have
geckos do,
their
if you explain it, they'll
exactly,
get the benefit.
They all have their rules. For instance, when people talk about owls, let me go to owls, because that's the one that when
Yes.
someone hears, for instance, my favorite of the owl, it's called the eagle owl. And that's the one that when it perches on your roof,
somebody's
you do
dying.
like that, and then people start
And then
casting
you can
and
turn
batting
his
and
neck.
calabashing and things like that. That's all out of ignorance. That's all out of ignorance. Because when you know the important role that these owls play, when you don't see rats running around your house, that means there's something that takes care of them.
Yes.
And when you see where owls roost, when you see the amount of the number of bones there, because what they do is that they swallow their prey whole, and then they digest it and bring out the bones. So if you count the bones, you'll be able to see how much biological control that the owls play. So they have their rules. The fact that we do not
definitely more
know,
of this kind of
the
information
fact that we do not know does not mean that they don't have their rules. And
So-
we need to look at it from
Yeah,
that.
so there's another part of world wildlife that we hardly talk about and people don't understand it. Is the plants as well.
Exactly.
We have wildlife. Could you talk to us about plants and their importance?
Yeah, so plants, in fact, the role that plants play, just that because they are kind of stationary and we don't talk much about them, but they are very, very important. In fact, we cannot exist without the plants. Even the animals can hardly exist without the plants. Now, let me talk about the humans. Plants provide food for us. Plants provide medicine for us. Plants provide shelter
Oxygen.
for us. Everything that you want to think about, plant provides for us. Now, that's on one hand. And on the other hand, plants make our environment conducive for us. If we don't have plants in some places, you have erosion. And for places that are steep, then you have landslide. When you have major landslide that results to the killing of thousands of human beings, is because those areas have been degraded and they've lost their solidity on the ground because there are no plant roots to be able to hold the soil together. So when it rains so much, there will be, the soil gets soaked,
Story of
and
my
before you
life.
know it, there will be a lot of
Let's
landslide.
talk about policy within this issue of wildlife, because I always see stories or reports of maybe when a whale washes ashore, you will now break them, cut in pieces to eat. It's time to feast. But in other parts of the world, when these things happen, they take them back into the ocean because that's their proper habitat. Is there a policy guarding these kind of things or preventing human beings from when some kind of a wild animal comes ashore, maybe a whale, for example? Is there any policy that ensures or that we can enforce to make sure they take them right back to the ocean?
Okay, so Nigeria will have some level of policy, but it's not being implemented to the level that it should be. And even those policies still need to be reviewed and at least to meet contemporary challenges and so on. Currently, at least just 3 weeks ago, it was it passed the first reading, and the Wildlife Protection Act I just passed the first reading and so on. That's a revised version of the Endangered Species Act, which we believe will be able to have more empower the law enforcement agents to be able to do their work better. But even with that, it calls also with awareness, because once a whale beaches in the Nigerian coastline, from what we've seen, is just everybody will bring out their machetes, and sometimes even with their chainsaw and things like that, to go into the fray and start cutting the meat. Sometimes you don't even know what killed, what made the animal. You don't know what disease it is carrying and so on. But because of some people just attribute it to hunger, poverty, and so on. No, it's not poverty of poverty. It's poverty of the mind. Because once we are aware that, these things are supposed to be helped back into the ocean, then we will do that. but also the policy is not as strong as it should be.
Right.
Because there are rules and there are laws that protects these animals, even in Nigeria, that are not being implemented, that should be implemented as much as possible.
Okay, we have to wrap up on this, but I think you've been able to send the message. It's World Wildlife Day, and congratulations to the National Conservation Center. You've done quite a bit of work. The work you do with Mariam. Mariam is now a vulture advocate.
Yeah.
Into vulture. You see
Yeah,
Mariam
proud
sitting there?
ambassador. Yeah, she's our proud ambassador.
Now she's getting international recognition, so we're so proud of the work she's doing. Thank you very much.